Hey, I'm Casey.
And I'm Lauren.
And this is...
Magnum B.I, the true crime podcast where we add a little social justice commentary, a little bit of comedy, and the homophobic double switch around.
That's my favorite dance move. You should have seen me last night.
They have classes at the Y.
Fuck line dancing. Let's try the homophobic double switch around.
Oh, God.
So I have a story to tell.
Yes.
Immediately when this happened, I was like, this is a story for the pod. But so there was this girl at my high school. Mm-hmm. Backstory, my high school, like, it was like an upstate New York high school. It wasn't like the most progressive place in the world, mm-hmm. but it also wasn't like, there wasn't a lot of like blatant oppression in it. You know what I mean? Which I'm also saying that as a white man. But anyway, so in high school, there was this one girl who was like a staunch Republican. She was Catholic. Yep. And she like hated gay people. Yep. And so like the day after the Pulse nightclub shooting.
I forgot about that.
The day after, this woman posted online on Twitter like, if gay people can be proud of their sexuality, I can be proud of being a straight woman. Which is like, whatever. But like the day after Pride.
The day after.
Or after Pulse.
A hate crime.
The day after a hate crime in which like a dozen people died for being gay.
She's like, well, you guys can have glittery rainbow flags, but I think you should die.
Yeah.
I'm going to kill you.
But like, I don't feel bad about Orlando. Yeah. And then one time I was alone in a classroom with her, and she like basically cornered me, and she was like, I'm writing a paper about why gay marriage is wrong, and I just need like the alternate viewpoint. So like, if you could tell me like why you like think it's okay.
She totally was like, hey, fag.
Yeah. Hi, I know you've had a girlfriend for 4 years, but you also wear tight pants, so I'm gonna...
Skinny jeans looking ass.
And I was like, I'm not gonna do that. I was like, I'm not giving you my opinion for that.
Please don't quote me.
So anyway, always hated this girl. I have never followed this girl. I was on vacation last week with a friend from high school, and we're by the pool, and my friend from high school is on Instagram, and she just gasps, and I'm like, what? And she's like, this girl, whose name I'm not gonna say, but this girl, she's a lesbian. She just came out!
That is, like, actually my favorite thing ever.
I know.
Because it is always the people that are the most homophobic, the most racist, and, like, somehow in some weird Freudian way, it all comes back around, and they're so weird about it.
I know, and it's like, I understand it, like, psychologically, like, sociologically, I get it. Yeah. I totally, like, get it, and I, like, and I empathize with it, but, like, at the same time, you could be, like, in the same post be like, I've said some really fucked up shit in the past, and I believe some really fucked up shit because I was so closeted, but like now I know that's wrong. Or you could reach out to people, or you know, it's not like you can't just act like your sins are erased because now you're a lesbian.
You can't hate crime me anymore. I'm on the other team now.
So anyway, that's a little story that I had to tell.
Well, that is it has nothing to do with our story, but it is a very good opener.
Thank you.
Excellent banter.
And Lauren's gonna end. She didn't sign up for this. I'm signing her up for this. She's gonna end with the story about her first date yesterday.
Oh, Christ!
You don't have to.
I know we said we weren't gonna talk anymore about my dating life on the pod, but this one's a doozy. So
it's so fun. I usually don't have anything to talk about, so I'd rather hear about your dating life.
Well, we'll get into it. Yeah. But first, we're going to talk about Leonarda Cianciulli, the Sweeney Todd of Italy.
Ooh, let's get into it.
So, I'm going to start this episode off with a very brief mention of some triggers, because this is going to be another nasty one. I'm excited.
Really quick. Somebody commented on our first Instagram video, our YouTube video, our Sneha video. That was like, and they were like, great episode, but. And then they went into this long rant about how trigger warnings are pointless, and I sound like a fake woke person. And they were like, do you wear like Birkenstocks with socks and drink your non-fat latte?
Pick up your sandals for the camera, Casey. The Birks in question.
Right next to me. So, if you're watching this episode, hi.
Hello.
I do. We're going to continue giving trigger warnings.
Yep.
Okay, sorry.
Anyways, this is going to be a nasty one. So we've got discussions of physical violence, rape, child death, attempted suicide, cannibalism, and murder. So we're covering the bases here.
Great.
Hang in there, guys. Let's get into it. We lay our scene in the early 1800s with the birth of Leonardo's mother, Amelia, in Montella, Italy. Amelia was renowned for her beauty and societal standing, with parents who used these traits as a bargaining chip to set her up for a prosperous marriage in the early 19th century. The main goal was to locate a suitor that would help Amelia maintain the high standard of living she had grown accustomed to as a part of her family's heritage, which included fun little activities like wine tasting, choosing fabrics for drapes, and entertaining other young socialites.
Whoa.
Which just sounds so luxurious.
Oh, in Italy?
Yes.
Oy.
Like being fed little fresh grapes and cheeses.
And being like, I like this fabric.
Yes, and now I will ask my other 3 friends who are also named Amelia to come over and we will lounge on the couch.
Oh.
Like, decadence, luxury, the whole bit.
I want it.
So, the courting process begins. This includes her parents working behind the scenes to secure interested parties for their daughter's hand in marriage. However, if that didn't work, the daughter would have a formal introduction to society known as a debut, which would occur after her education was completed. So think like a quinceañera. It's like a coming-of-age thing where they're like, this is our daughter. She's on the market. Yeah. Take a look, everybody. She's beautiful. She's cool. Come on. Let's have some dowries, please.
Pick her up.
Pick her up. So, after such, the 2 young socialites, like the prospective marriage partners, would go on supervised dates with chaperones and dance, eat, be merry, under the watchful gaze of their adult babysitters. So everything is very heavily guarded. They don't let the kids out of their sight because, in essence, they're investments. Yeah. So everything is very heavily moderated.
And if they have sex and they lose their virginity and then they don't get married, that's like a huge loss.
Yes, exactly. Because you, in essence, lose your bargaining chip. Because the whole virtue of this, especially in a very heavily Catholic society, is purity and innocence and the whole, like, you know, virtue of virginity thing, which is very big and still is to an extent.
Yeah.
Our introduction to Leonardo's father, however, Mariano Cianciulli, begins with Amelia leaving a party that had been thrown by one of her potential suitors. She left the party alone after dark, not suspecting that Mariano was watching her from afar. He's an older, poor man whose reputation consisted of being a lazy and oftentimes cruel alcoholic. It's difficult to locate the exact ages of these individuals because, again, this is the 1800s. But based upon the context of Amelia's debut and a family tree from Mariano's side of the family, it was likely that Amelia was like 16 to 19. And Mariano was 40. So
like more than double her age.
More than double her age.
Ew.
Mariano was deeply infatuated with Amelia due to her youth and remarkable beauty, but resented her at the same time. He hated her for her birthright and detested the Italian aristocracy for their position above him. He would never even be considered as a potential suitor for Amelia due to his lower societal standing and the fact that he's like a gross, drunk old man. So he desperately wanted to drag Amelia down to his level. So Mariano had been eyeing Amelia for some time, and on the night of this party, he waited just outside the gate of the estate in which the party had been held, waiting for her as he drank a bottle of cheap wine. Once she cleared the gate, Mariano kidnapped her and dragged her into a neighboring field free from prying eyes, where he raped her.
Oh, no.
So we're into it right off the bat here, folks.
God damn.
Once, where was I? Amelia had no idea what sex even was.
Oh, my God.
Because another part of this whole, like, courtship process was that the families would like withhold any kind of sexual education from their daughters because in a weird purity culture kind of thing, they were worried that if they even knew what sex was, they would try and seek out other suitors and deflower themselves.
Ew.
So they didn't even tell her anything. She had no idea what was going on, which is so tragic.
Oh, that's horrible.
And you know, by virtue, as a result of this, Amelia didn't even fully grasp the gravity of this assault. She didn't understand that, you know, like her entire life was about to come crashing down because of what this man had done to her. Yeah. She just knew that he hurt her in some way. So she stumbles home in a daze and falls asleep, obviously extremely traumatized.
Yeah.
She didn't realize what happened until the next morning when she woke up and she found blood, like, on her bed sheets and on her clothes and on her legs. God. And then she realized, you know, fuck, yeah. You know, I was raped. Family was religious, blah, 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 soiled her purity. So, in essence, she's committed some kind of cardinal sin. She's been completely deflowered. So, she...
Poor thing.
I know.
Imagine that. Imagine, like, that horrible, traumatizing event happening to you, and then all these people around you spin it to be like, you are a sinner, and now you're not worth anything.
And you can't tell anyone.
Yeah.
Which is exactly what she does. She cleans herself up, puts on a smile, and tries to ignore the problem. And obviously, she doesn't tell anybody. And, you know, she probably would have managed to keep this entire thing a secret if her periods hadn't stopped.
Oh, no.
So, unfortunately for her, she ends up becoming pregnant from this. Yep. And like I said, because she had no formal sex education, she had no idea that there was a correlation between the rape and the period stopping. Yeah. She just didn't even think about it. But, you know, the ladies in waiting who would, like, change the bedclothes, and eventually her mother noticed, and they were like, she's pregnant.
Oh, no.
So she is in deep shit.
Yeah.
They end up confronting her parents, and, you know, they automatically assume that one of Amelia's potential suitors had defiled her before their marriage. And her dad was like, you know, tell me which one it was. And she's like, you know, trying to protect herself because she doesn't want them to know that some greasy, disgusting old man raped her. Yeah. So she's like, no, it wasn't any of them, blah, blah, blah. And it gets to a point where he's threatening to knock on the door of every single one of her boyfriends until she confesses everything. Jesus,
that doesn't help anybody.
Nope, not at all.
That would make it way worse.
Yep. So she breaks down and admits that Mariano had assaulted her. And this is, I think, out of all the things in this story, this part in particular is what makes me the angriest. How do you think her family handled this? Do you think they, A, called the police, B, sent out a legion of private guards, or C, did some old-fashioned baseball bat restorative justice? Unfortunately, it's none of the above.
Yeah.
They invite Mariano and his entire family, because, of course, he already has a wife and kids at this point, to dinner in their home.
What?
Yes. They bring him in and sit him down at their dinner table and talk to him. And they're like, listen, you know, the only way to protect our image as high-level socialites is to make an honest woman out of our daughter, who is obviously a provocative slut. And we're going to marry her off to you.
You...
Yes.
Okay, A, she has a wife and kids.
Yes.
B, maybe don't invite your daughter's rapist over for dinner.
Yep.
I mean, that goes without saying, but like, ugh.
Yep. And of course, because Amelia is still a child and is a woman, she has absolutely no say in this whatsoever. And so they're like, yeah, so you're going to get married to our daughter, and she needs to leave immediately because we don't want to be seen with her anymore because she's a disappointment and she's a slut. So we need to get rid of her.
So heartbreaking.
Yeah, it was fucked up. So they were wed very quickly and very quietly because they didn't want anyone to know that Mariano had raped her like a couple months before.
What about his wife and kids?
I have no idea. I did like a whole bunch of research. I looked up family trees and shit. There is no mention of them after the fact. So I'm assuming they just fucked off and left.
Because he was probably like, yeah, fuck you guys. Like, yeah. I got this rich young girl.
Exactly,
you know?
Which is so terrifying and gross. Yeah. Like, not only are we destroying one family, like all of Amelia's entire family, but we're also destroying his own family. Yeah. So this guy is a huge piece of shit.
If we've learned one thing from this podcast, it's that men generally, historically, and in the contemporary just suck.
Like, why? Like, what is wrong with you people?
Like, God.
I know. So, like I said, the two were wed quickly and quietly before Amelia was forced to pack her possessions, move out of her lavish childhood home, and into Mariano's dingy shack in the poorest part of Montella. Mariano, yeah. So they immediately move into, like, this fucking hovel in the slums of Montella.
Also, like, how is that not, like, worse?
Yeah.
Like they were like, we have to get you married to this man so we don't defile our name. And then it's like, the man in question.
Yep.
The poem. The man in question lives in a shack.
Yep.
And is an ex-husband and father of two.
But God forbid anyone knows that their daughter was assaulted by no fault of her own.
Yeah.
God for fucking bid.
Yeah.
Which, makes me so angry.
You couldn't hold her in your castle for 9 months and then, like, give the baby up for adoption?
Like, there are so many other things that could have happened other than, let's marry her off to the rapist.
And she'll go live in a shack.
So...
Yeah.
Mariano spent his days drinking and relishing in his success. Here was this young girl whom he'd lusted after for years and despised due to her wealth and inaccessibility. And now, here she was, being his perfect little peasant wife while they languished in squalor. And, like I mentioned already, couldn't find any info about his previous family. They just fucked off. Mariano would go on to take full advantage of Amelia, forcing himself upon her and actively punishing her for her ignorance in the bedroom and the home. She'd never even cooked or cleaned anything in her entire life. Her daily activities consisted of learning multiple languages, playing the harpsichord, embroidery. Like, she didn't even know how to fucking clean.
Yeah.
So...
Well, because she was being trained for a life in which she wouldn't have to clean. Like,
exactly.
the man she married would have enough money that they could hire people.
They would have a staff. She would have her pretty little dresses, her drapes, her grapes. No dice.
Drapes or grapes.
Period. That's another book of poems for you. But, she had all of these high expectations set for her by her new husband, big air quotes on that, and he, like, refused to tolerate her inability to provide the services that he expected of her, because that was the understanding. The Catholic, like, religious, what is the word I'm looking for, binary, about what a man should do and what a woman should do, the time period, homemaker, provider, blah, 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 blah. So he was fucking pissed that she wasn't a wife.
Yeah.
Let me see. Yeah. So, as their strict Catholic views reinforced the societal gender norms that became the metaphorical bars of Amelia's prison, Mariano would beat Amelia violently rather than show her how to do what was expected of her. All Amelia could do was submit and wait. The byproduct of this situation was Leonarda, the main character of our story, who was born April 18th, 1894. She's a Leo. Doesn't really matter, but unfortunately for her, by virtue of this entire situation, Amelia fucking hated her. She despised this child because in her eyes, this is the only person that is the byproduct of this entire situation.
Yeah, I get it.
This is her chain that locks her to this man.
Yeah.
She didn't know how to be a mother. Like, she was raised by nannies. Her mother wasn't really a mother to her either. And she didn't have a support system to watch out for her because Mariano didn't have any extended family. The new social circle she had been thrust into resented her for her upper class roots. And, you know, her family and the entirety of the upper class abandoned her. So they basically used her as a warning to their own daughters. They're like, this is what will happen to you if you have sex before marriage. Yeah. You will end up like Amelia and be sent to a shack. So that also makes me really fucking mad.
Yeah,
like,
I know.
Sex is not a fucking punishment. It just simply isn't.
And also that wasn't, like, yes.
Well, yeah.
But also that wasn't consensual sex.
Absolutely not.
Like, you can't be like, oh, if you get raped, this is what's going to happen to you.
We're going to punish you for something that was entirely outside of your control. Because obviously it's all your fault.
Yeah.
You're a woman.
You're a temptress.
So, all this to say, Leonarda's life was hell from the moment of conception. Amelia was heavily verbally abusive towards her daughter and would often remind young Leonarda that she was the reason their lives were hell. Oh. She would physically assault her and lord it over her daughter with an iron fist. in essence, this was the only person who was lower than herself, socially and physically.
Yeah.
So she used that dynamic to her advantage and abused her very deeply. During this time, Mariano still refused to get a job. Apparently being the town drunk is a position that needs to be filled. And he had that covered. So he's like, I'm all set.
Employee of the month every month.
Employee of the month every fucking month. So the three of them traveled from hovel to hovel, largely living off the charity of the Catholic Church.
Oh.
Mariano didn't give a fuck. As long as he had enough money to buy himself alcohol, he was happy. So he didn't care. Everything would change one night, however, when Mariano went out drinking and didn't come back for quite a few days. It was most likely a week, but he would often disappear on drinking binges for long periods of time. And as such, Amelia didn't really notice he was gone until it had been like 7 days. And she was like, it's been oddly peaceful around here.
Yeah.
Where's my husband? So after that, she puts together that obviously something is wrong. And she goes out to find her deadbeat husband. She goes around town, knocking on doors. And it wasn't until she arrived at the door of one of Mariano's close friends that she realized her husband was unresponsive and had been asleep in bed for multiple days fighting a high fever.
Oh, shit. And no one contacted her?
Yeah, well, I mean,
I get it. They were probably all like, let's give her some time alone.
Yeah.
But, like, still, it's like you have to show up at the house to find out.
Like, by the way,
Yeah.
he hasn't woken up in 3 days.
Yeah.
But, yeah, upon realizing this, she gets, all the other people in the house to help her bring her husband back home, where she lays him in bed and promptly leaves him to die.
Good.
Because, number one, even if she cared, it would have been really fucking expensive to get a doctor. Yeah. And they didn't have the money for that. So she saw this as an opportunity to move on from the nightmare that had become her life. Mm-hmm. She was still beautiful. She was still young. She had a chance at finding a new husband and a new life. So, like I said, they don't call the doctor, and Mariano dies. Once he's dead, Amelia expected that things in her life would improve. Mm-hmm. Her family would welcome her and her daughter, help her get back on her feet, set her up with a new husband. Like, Mariano had been the problem all along. And now that he was dead, things would go back to normal. Right?
Sure.
Wrong!
Yeah.
So, they completely rejected her and Leonarda, of course, fearing that reintroducing her to their high society buddies would just remind everyone of how much of a fuck-up she was, and they couldn't possibly undo all of the, quote, hard work they had done repairing their perfect little pristine upper-class image. So they kicked her back to the curb.
Go fuck yourself.
Yep, I hate these people.
And also now she's been living in squalor. Like, now she's been poor, so there's not only the shame of, like, her having a baby out of wedlock, whatever, shame, quote-unquote.
Yep.
But there's, like, now she's not living up to the standards which we have presented.
Why are your fingernails dirty? Have you been sweeping? Disgusting!
You haven't played the harpsichord in years.
However, will we wed her without her harpsichord?
That's how my mom talks about me when she tries to find me a nice Jewish girl.
Where's your harpsichord, Casey?
Yeah.
Have you been keeping?
Pull it out.
Have you been keeping up with your lessons?
My mom talks like Dame Maggie fucking Dench.
Regardless.
Sorry.
No, you're good. Amelia sets her sights a little lower. She chooses the middle class, but they won't accept her either. Sure, the men of this societal standing appreciate her manners, her pedigree, her good looks, but her marriage to Mariano still followed her like a black cloud, and none of them seriously considered her to be wifey material. She was just like a quick fuck, and she could like pick out your drapes, and then she was gone. So they fully were like, fuck this girl.
Wasn't that worth anything to them though? Because I feel like if I was in this society and I was really, really poor and this woman came along and she was like, I used to be super, super, super rich, I would like scoop that up.
You would think so. But I think it's because they're so hung up on the whole aspect of her being defiled that doesn't even matter
She was
anymore.
married though. I mean, like, I'm taking this cultural perspective very much, but
Devil's
like,
advocate.
she's a widow, you know? Like, it's not like she's, you know? Like, yeah.
We'll get into that a tiny bit later.
Okay.
So she sets her sights a little lower. Amelia finds herself shacking up with the shadier crowd of Montella, and while at this time her potential suitors had money and showered her with flashy gifts, none of them made their mark on society by legitimate means. She was hooking up with gangsters, the mafia, organized crime. So she marries a new man, whose name, unfortunately, I couldn't find, but that doesn't really matter, who lavishes her with expensive gifts, car rides, trips to the city, fancy dinners out, and regrettably treats Leonarda as an afterthought. Whenever Amelia would pay attention to her daughter, it was always in a negative context. She was verbally and physically abusive towards her daughter and would punish her often for doing tasks incorrectly or, in her eyes, inadequately. So if it wasn't perfect, she would, beat her.
Ugh, I was rooting for her so hard.
Who, Amelia?
Yeah.
No, she is very much a victim of circumstance in this whole thing and just takes it out very poorly.
Yeah.
So, in a sense, she is passing on Mariano's abuse to her daughter. Most times, however, Leonarda was left completely unattended, and as such, rarely had food to eat or a parental figure to look after her while her mother and stepdad were out on the town. It's well documented in child developmental psychology that the most pivotal years for forming bonds with children and the years in which these children need the most love and attention are between the ages of infancy and 5. Depending on the care you receive during these years, either attentive, inattentive, sporadic, or abusive, these all inform the ways in which you will seek out and express yourself in your own relationships later in life. The 4 main kinds of attachment styles that come from these parental relationships are secure, which is, if there's constant parental care, you have a secure attachment style. And then if you don't, you'll either end up with insecure, anxious, or disorganized attachment, which, is all from lacking parental care. Yeah. Either it's few and far between, or you can't really depend on your parents to provide for you when they're there, or they're just simply not around.
Yeah. What do you think you are?
I like to think I'm secure, but I don't think so.
I think I used to be insecure, but I think I'm secure now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, that's nice.
I know.
I love it. Therapy.
Zoloft.
Amen. But like I said, if the parental care is lacking, they'll develop one of the other 3 attachment styles. And in Leonarda's case, she developed the insecure attachment style, which is characterized by deficits in emotional, mental, and sometimes even physical development throughout the childhood, which results in a deeply codependent attachment style later in life. And this will come into play later. Due to her unfortunate upbringing, Leonarda would attempt suicide twice between the ages of 13 and 14, but would fail both times. And she's just a baby.
Yeah, 13-year-old.
Awful. This would begin a lifelong battle with mental health that Leonarda would fight largely on her own, as her mother didn't even notice that she had tried to commit.
Jeez.
Because she was never there, so she had no idea, and she couldn't talk to anybody about it, so it just festered. As she grew up, she began to blossom into a beautiful young woman, much like her mother before her. This, evidently, was when Amelia began to pay attention to her again. Here was a new bargaining chip, a ticket to the next, bigger, better level of society. So Amelia dresses herself back up and went back out on the town, offering Leonarda up to the upper echelons of society. Because even though she herself was considered damaged goods, her daughter wasn't. Mm-hmm. And she still technically had, the family name, the bloodline, the pedigree attached. So it was hey, I know I'm not on the market anymore, but my super smoking hot 14-year-old is.
Who looks like I did.
Yeah.
Remember me? Yeah.
Check that out, guys.
But how are you going to repeat that cycle, though? I get it, but
she doesn't know any better.
Yeah.
It's fucked up.
It is.
So, obviously, there were a couple problems.
Yeah.
Amelia never thought to tell Leonarda that she was out on the town on the hunt for a suitor, which is stupid, in my opinion, but whatever. In a sense, she never really expected Leonarda to have any desires of her own. However, at the same time, Leonarda fell in love with someone else, an older man by the name of Raphael, who worked as an office clerk. And I will say this, even though he is older than her, Raphael is the only good person in this entire story.
Okay.
He is always in her corner, and I fuck with Raphael.
Okay, cool.
And he didn't work a high-paying, fancy job like her mother wanted, but he was kind. He offered stability in a time when she had none. So when he proposed, she was overjoyed. She's like, yes, absolutely, I love you, let's do it. So she goes to tell her mom. Mm-hmm. Amelia is not happy.
Yeah, no.
She gets really fucking upset.
Office clerk?
How dare you?
Yeah.
But, for whatever reason, again, she still doesn't tell Leonarda that she has a group of desirable suitors, like, waiting in the wings.
Yeah.
She simply tells Leonarda that she would never approve of the marriage, and, because she had always obeyed her mother's commands up until this point, she never expected her to resist. Leonarda, for once in her life, stands up to her mom and is like, fuck you, I'm marrying Raphael, I love this man.
Good.
I am getting out of here.
Good.
So, Amelia, calmly and coldly, bestows a promise upon Leonarda. A curse, if you will. You will live a miserable life until the day you die. And, as a lovely little bookend to that mother-daughter relationship, those are the last words she ever spoke to Leonarda.
Oh my god.
She cursed her.
Can you imagine if that was the last thing you heard from your mom?
I would be fucking destroyed.
Oh, well, yeah, I mean, granted, you have a good relationship with your mom, but,
yeah.
But, oh my god.
Yeah.
She really said, like,
yeah.
bippity-boppity.
Yeah, she's like, fuck you.
Yeah.
So, that's the end of Amelia. The couple, Raphael and Leonarda, are married in 1917 without her mother's blessing. All of this is terrifying to Leonarda. Being raised in the 19th century in a deeply Catholic, abusive household, hell wasn't an idea or a concept. It was a certainty.
Yeah.
And since she didn't have her mother's blessing, she was like 100% sure that this was going to happen to her. She was going to be damned for all eternity.
And also, like, if her, on a more practical, like, non-religious level, if her stepdad was in the mafia, he could easily, like, her mom could be like, yo, husband, you gotta go kill Raphael.
Kill!
Yeah.
Kill!
Like, fucking put a horse head in his bed or something. Like,
not that shit again. Yeah. Say hello to my little friend.
He's Mexican.
No, wasn't that from the Mafia movie? The one with Sylvester Stallone?
I thought it was from Terminator.
Oh, fuck, I don't know.
I don't know either.
We'll fix it in post. Anyways.
We always say that, and then it's, like, never fixed in post.
I do. I fix it in post.
So, what happened next? Sorry.
Anyway, for the next few years of her life as a married woman, she devoted herself wholeheartedly to taking care of the house and her husband, and Raphael did his best to try and help her as best as he could. He never really understood why Leonarda had such a hard time accepting failure or not doing things perfectly the first time. So she's fully wrapped up in the whole, like, mom's voice in her head being like, you're not good enough, you're not good enough. Yeah. So, in a sense, she becomes her own harshest critic now that her mom's out of the picture.
That's sad.
Yep. But, as one does, she eventually decided she wanted to follow in her mother's footsteps in another sense. She wanted to have kids. Because, she's happily married, it's what people do. Before that, however, she wanted to have her palm read by a Romani fortune teller that lived nearby. As I said, she truly believed that her mother had cursed her, and she very deeply feared death. She admitted as much to the fortune teller before allowing her to read her palms. And the fortune teller told her that she would live a long life, but it would be plagued with sadness as she was destined to outlive all of her children.
Oh. My God.
So, not exactly helping, unfortunately.
No.
It really sucks. Because, in a sense, this sort of overlapped with her mother's curse. She was really fucking scared.
Yeah.
Throughout the next couple years, her and Raphael tried to conceive and fail many, many, many times. Unfortunately, throughout this process, she had 3 miscarriages, and as she kept trying and failing to get pregnant, the stress caused her to have fits, which were these violent seizures brought on by the stress of attempting to carry a child to term and having her body reject the fetus over and over and over again.
Oh my God.
And at this point, she's basically come to terms with the fact that this curse is more a reality than she was initially willing to admit. She needed to protect her family at all costs, break the curse, find her happiness, so they decide to leave Montella. They go out to find a better job for Raphael and locate some stability. Eventually, they settle into his hometown in 1921, and the two are happy. Mm-hmm. The climate is warm and pleasant, plus with the added bonus of having Raphael's extended family there to support them, much of Leonarda's stress was much more easily manageable, and their little family eased into the carefree, mundane lives of your average Italian family in the 1920s. Leonarda's anxiety all but faded away, and she was finally able to bring her latest pregnancy to term. The son, Giuseppe, her miracle baby, was born that same year, and she loved him very deeply.
Aww.
So finally, after all these years, after all this trying, she finally has her beautiful baby boy.
Oh, see, I'm so happy right now, and I know that you're going to ruin that right away. But
well, not right away,
okay.
But
let me ride the wave.
Yep. So she loved this kid almost obsessively. Because her miracle baby had taken so long to come to fruition, she obsessed over keeping him safe. Her anxiety returned full force, and unfortunately, so would her seizures. She tried again to conceive, and out of her 17 attempted pregnancies, 10 of her children would go on to die extremely young.
It's like 10 children that she carried to term?
Yes.
Oh my God.
So all in all, after all was said and done, she would have 4 kids that lived, like, through infancy and into their later years.
Oh my God, she gave birth that many times?
I know, I was reading that and I was like, girl, is your pussy okay?
No wonder you're having seizures.
Like, that's
like,
horrible.
Holy shit.
Have you heard of the pull-out method? Raphael, please.
Y'all can adopt.
Yeah, you know, you don't have to do that to yourself. But
oh my God.
anyways,
whoa.
Yeah, so she has her miracle baby Giuseppe, and then 2 other daughters and 1 more son. But Giuseppe's the oldest, and she's the most obsessed with him.
Yeah.
This protectiveness towards her children would continue throughout their infancy and into their later lives. She feared that the curse had begun following her once again because of all of the children that were dying, unfortunately, and as a result became a helicopter parent of epic proportions. The common cold was a death sentence. A bump or a bruise warranted an immediate doctor's visit. And, you know, her family tried to help as best as they could, but there wasn't really anything any of them could do to help her anxiety, because she was like, you know, I am destined to watch all my children die. I have to prevent this at any cost.
Yeah.
Raphael comes up with a pretty good solution. He figures that if he could get Leonarda to focus on something else, it would help her overall mental health. So, in an attempt to, at the same time, alleviate some of the financial stress that had been brought on by their growing family, he gets her a job cleaning a bank on the night shift. So this was actually a really good fit for her. She could watch the kids during the day, and once Raphael was home from working the day shift, she could go work her little job, earn some extra money, and, you know, kind of keep to herself, because there's no one in the bank at night, so she wouldn't be stressed about anything.
That's awesome. Yeah. Good. I like Raphael.
I do too. He's really great. So, you know, she could go out and do all of that knowing that her babies were safe because her husband was there to watch over them.
Yeah.
And this was perfect. Until her worst fear happened. One night while she's at work, you know, at the bank, her 10th child, out of the 10 that would die very young, died in its sleep while she was working the night shift at the bank.
Oh my God, what is going on?
1800s, the kids are not all right.
Yeah.
So,
but that many.
I know, it's fucked up. So, you know, she fucking loses it. After 10 children dying, like between the ages of like infancy and 5 years old, she just breaks down. How many more of her children would have to die before the curse was lifted? How much more would their family have to suffer? She makes a very poor decision here, but she tries to circumvent the financial stress caused by their family's growth, and tries to scam the bank she's working at into giving her a bunch of money, and was like immediately arrested.
Oh no.
Yeah. So she was sent to jail in 1927, and she was in there for 18 months. And when she gets out, she realizes everything has gone to shit. And because she was sent to jail, Raphael loses his job, and the entire community rejects them.
Oh no. Yep. Come on.
Even Raphael's extended family, who like didn't outright condemn them, but they put together, like, a sum of money and were like, I think you should move on.
Yeah.
They're like, we need you to relocate, sorry. So, they do. They leave. The family eventually settles into the small town of Campania, and things start to look up again. Raphael gets a new job that allows for Leonarda to stay at home and watch the kids, which greatly decreases her anxiety. But she gets pregnant again. She feared that this pregnancy would also end in disaster, so she sought out another palm reader. She needed to know if her future would continue to follow the path of her mother's curse. Once again, she presents her palms to the Romani woman on the other side of the table and awaited her fate. This fortune, unfortunately, was just as bleak as the last. The palm reader told Leonarda, in your right hand, I see prison. In your left, a criminal asylum.
Great.
So it's like one thing after another. It just doesn't fucking stop for this woman.
I love also how, like, brutally honest these, like fortune-telling women are. Also, they're not like, oh, you're gonna, like, go on a great vacation.
They're
like,
fully like, death, disaster, destruction, asylum.
Yeah. Your last meal will be cold.
A singular cup of cold black coffee.
Yeah.
Which
like,
is...
God.
So, her newest baby is born. Again, her seizures grow worse, and she fears that the longer this child stays alive, the more likely it would be that this one would die as well. She raises the child from a place of emotional detachment, preparing for his eventual death. Because she's just so traumatized that she's like...
God, this is horrible.
She's like, it's inevitable. Sorry, dude. So that fucking sucks. She would eventually become more detached from the rest of her family as well, and would often walk through the woods late at night. She would find herself at the Romani camp where the palm reader lived. In a sense, the more she visited, the closer she became with all of the people there, and eventually built a close relationship. At the same time, she tried researching different methods to attempt to break the curse through the varying spiritual practices the Romani offered her. So instead of looking to Catholicism, which has been no help to her at this point, she's like, let's see if there's any kind of like pagan witchcraft I can look into.
That's dope.
Yeah.
That's
so
cool.
she becomes close with the Romani people that are living there and start becoming, more in tune with the occult. So she has to keep that hush-hush for now.
Oh my God, yeah. Yeah, you're already, like, ostracized by our community, and now you're a witch. Like, I don't think that would bode too well.
On the DL, of course.
Yeah.
So she does all of this, but unfortunately, there aren't any solutions that are readily available. On July 23rd, 1930, the Irpina earthquake destroys the Cianciulli home and levels the entirety of the community. Leonarda freaks out because she thinks it's her mom's curse again. I understand where she's coming from, obviously, because this has been her situation her entire life. But to a certain point, you kind of have to realize that there is no way that you are responsible for a fucking earthquake.
Yeah, no.
So, lots of mental illness happening here, but, she's like, this is my fault. Fuck.
God.
She realizes no matter how safe or loved or cared for she felt, her mother's curse would follow her wherever she went, tormenting her for the rest of her life. There had to be a solution, but what? If she wanted to escape the curse, obviously she had to take matters into her own hands. Once again, the family would relocate, this time to a small town named Coreggio, and were welcomed with open arms as refugees of the earthquake. For the first time in her life, she felt a sense of love and community. She belonged. Raphael got a stable job, her kids grew older, and Leonarda made friends with the locals. She would often join them for gossip. She wrote poetry and would read it to them, and they would share coffee and gossip and just get to know each other better.
Okay, good.
Yeah. So she even had a little time and a little extra money to pick up a hobby, soap making. She eventually became extremely good at it, using her cleaning know-how from the bank and, her perfectionism, which was instilled in her by her mother, to make some of the best soaps in Italy. She honestly couldn't even make them fast enough to keep them on the shelves. Are you ready? Mm-hmm. Along with soap making, She also became well known for her ability to palm read. She used her life experience from all the tragedies she had experienced to offer useful advice to the women of the town. And eventually, through her, skilled craftsmanship as a soap maker and her knowledge of different spiritual practices, she becomes one of the most important women in the society of Coreggio. Her fame spread throughout the land, and whenever nobles visited, they wanted her soaps. Farmers wanted her to give predictions on their harvests. Young hopefuls wanted her opinions on their likelihood of conception. And whenever the Romani passed through town, they wanted to exchange spiritual knowledge and barter for her soaps. This...
Cool. I feel like I know what's coming, so I'm not as excited as I would be.
Maybe not in the way you'd expect.
Okay.
We're getting into it.
Okay.
This meant that, through her relationship and friendship with the Romani people, she was able to acquire a vast breadth of occult knowledge because at this point, the Romani people were very villainized and vilified. So they were nomads. They moved from place to place. But, once they came to Coreggio and word spread that there was this spiritual woman that, was nice to them and would trade with them and speak to them as equals, they would speak to each other and have different occult books and different spiritual, pieces sent to her. So they would all barter for the soap, and she would get, books. Tomes and tomes of pagan mythology, alchemy books, astrology scrolls, religious works from, all kinds of different practices.
That's super cool.
Yeah, so she's expanding her worldview. She's learning a bunch of new things about spirituality. She builds this collection of occult knowledge that is on the same level as some of the churches at the time. Wow, so she's fucking going for it.
Good for her. That's cool.
Yep. And, she viewed this as a way to break her curse at any cost. She had too much to lose at this point. This was her entire life, and she did not want to lose it. World War II begins.
And it was her fault.
It was the curse.
It was Mom's curse.
But World War II reaches Italy. It seemed the clock had finally struck midnight for Leonarda. All eligible men were being drafted to the war effort, meaning that her miracle baby, her golden child, her eldest son, Giuseppe, was being sent off to war.
Oh, my God. Oh, no.
And she was old enough that she had lived through World War I,
yeah.
So she knew what horrors were in store for her son.
Oh, my God.
So this is absolutely fucking terrifying for her.
Yeah.
And she doesn't know this, but Giuseppe was using this as an excuse to get out of Coreggio because his mother's influence was so oppressive and the helicopter parenting had gotten to be so much that he actually signed himself up for it to get out.
That's so sad.
But she doesn't know that.
Yeah.
She thinks he's being drafted, and she's like, I have to protect my baby. He's gonna die. It's the curse all over again.
And now we have 3 generations of, different parenting styles that all turned out to be, super awful.
Really, really bad.
Yeah.
So she begins her research again in earnest, in desperation. She pores over all of her occult books obsessively, and after doing so for months, she realizes she's cracked the code. To undo the curse and protect Giuseppe's life, Leonarda believed she needed to use alchemy. Alchemy is basically chemistry plus a little bit of magic. To create something of equal value must be lost or destroyed. So, to save the life of her child, Leonarda believed she would have to exchange one life for another. She believed she needed to use human sacrifice.
Come on! You were doing so well! You were doing so well. Maybe, light a prayer candle. Mm-hmm. I don't know.
You would think. So, Leonarda comes up with a plan. She decides she's going to use the customers of her soap shop and kill the victims within the home, perform a series of rites and spells to undo the magic of her mother's curse with her own, and use the blood of the victims in her sacrifices. So, the first of her victims was a spinster named Faustina, who had been visiting Leonarda on a regular basis for advice in matchmaking. Leonarda told Faustina she'd found a suitor for her, and in celebration, the two share a glass of wine. Unfortunately for Faustina, Leonarda had drugged her. The older woman fell into a deep stupor after finishing the wine. Before Leonarda, used an axe to dismember her body.
Oh my god!
Yep, so she knocks her out and then chops her into little pieces.
Also, I like how she's never killed before, and then she's like, axe murder.
Yeah, because...
like, she jumped a few steps there.
And the YouTube video that I watched for the majority of my research, the woman who did it, and I'm going to link it when we do our little sources later, made sure to mention that Leonarda, in a sense, and as we've seen throughout most of this case, is not a violent person.
Yeah.
She just felt that she had no other choice, which is so tragic, you know, having to do something like that because you genuinely believe in your heart and your soul that if you do not kill these people, your children are going to die. Yeah. And they're the only thing you have left.
God.
Which is awful. So, using Festina's blood, Leonarda creates a batch of tea cakes. In doing so, she performs a series of rites and casts a spell over them, believing that once the spell was complete and the cakes were consumed, this spell and this magic would protect the person from within.
Okay.
But this wasn't enough. She also went as far as to use the tallow rendered from Festina's remains to make a bar of soap, so that the same spell could protect the person externally.
Holy shit.
So you would be coated inside and out in magic to protect you from everything and anything.
Ew.
Yep.
Do you think Bath and Body Works does this?
The dead body scent. Not good. Not good. But, yeah, she, like I said, she attempts to make the soap. However, unlike the animal tallow that she had rendered in her other soap-making activities, Festina's remains yielded a dark red sludge. Like, she looked at this and was like, this isn't good enough for soap. Obviously, I did this wrong. Not, obviously, I shouldn't be using human remains.
Not, oh, this was a bad idea.
Exactly. So she's like, oh, I fucked up. I have to try again. So she finds a new victim. This time, the woman's name was Francesca. She was a retired school teacher and went to Leonarda in search of a job. Francesca received the same treatment as Festina and resulted in another batch of tea cakes. This time, when Leonarda tasted the cakes, she reported feeling a jolt of electricity travel through her body, and she decided that she was tasting the magic in action. Instead of, I'm contracting a disease by eating human remains.
I have, full body,
chills.
Yeah. Ew.
So, she does all that. She's like, fuck yeah, good tea cakes. However, when she tried the soap, again, it fails. But, she thinks she's getting closer this time. So she's like, you know what? I don't know what I'm doing wrong.
Girl.
Third time's the charm. So she comes to the conclusion that the reason why her soap kept failing over and over again was because, in a sense, we come back to the principle of alchemy once again. To break this horrible, evil curse, she needed to use a beautiful, kind person in her sacrifice. So, for her third and final victim, she chose a woman by the name of Virginia Capaccio. Virginia was an extraordinary person. She was a former master soprano and one of Leonarda's closest friends.
Oh my God.
To save the life of someone she loved, she needed to sacrifice someone else who she loved just as deeply. Equivalent exchange.
Holy shit.
So, she does it all again. She kills Virginia and performs the rites. This time, the soap turns out differently. In Leonarda's own words, she ended up in the pot like the other two. Her flesh was fat and white. When it had melted, I added a bottle of cologne, and after a long time on the boil, I was able to make some most acceptable creamy soap. I gave bars to neighbors and acquaintances. The cakes, too, were better. That woman was really sweet.
Ew. That's your friend.
Her best friend.
That's her best friend.
Her best friend. I would never turn you into soap.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
I don't think you have to tell me that.
So, Leonarda has completely gone off the fucking deep end. She sets aside a batch of these tea cakes and a batch of the soap for her son, and then gives the excess to friends and acquaintances, neighbors. They all are girl, this soap is awesome. These tea cakes are delicious.
Also, where's your friend? Where's Virginia?
Where'd she go?
I haven't seen her in a while.
I haven't seen her in a minute, but nobody puts the pieces together yet. She decides that, in essence, this is a sign that all of her spells and rites had gone on as intended. She's like, I finally fucking did it correctly. It worked. I have soap, I have cake, it's great. So this in a sense indicates that Virginia had been the right sacrifice all along. If not, why had everything gone to plan? It seemed all was right in the world. Leonarda had conquered her demons and was on track to peace and tranquility for the first time in her life. So all she needed now was to deliver the magic to her golden child, and her task would finally be complete. Once Giuseppe returns home from work, she draws him a bath and basically has the world's most uncomfortable mother-son bonding activity and, like, washes him.
Yeah.
Every inch of his body
he was
with the soap.
Like, Jesus fucking
because he was
Christ,
an adult.
Bob. Yeah.
This was, like I said, a very deeply uncomfortable experience for Giuseppe because he's a grown man.
He's about to go to war.
Yeah, and, like, you know, there's the stereotype of the overprotective Italian mother, but this is fucking crazy.
Yeah, that's a lot.
And he knows it. After all of which, she force feeds him the tea cakes. And this entire situation destroys what was left of their relationship.
Oh.
Leonarda, however, doesn't give a fuck. She is like, you know what? I don't care. You can be mad at me, you can hate me, but at least you will be alive. So she doesn't really care. And for a while, everything seems to be okay. Until Virginia's sister-in-law, Albertina, starts looking for Virginia. She arrives in Coreggio and starts asking people, have you seen my sister-in-law? She goes all around town and eventually finds herself in Leonarda's shop. She speaks to her, asking about Virginia. And in turn, Leonarda plays dumb. She has no idea where she went. She's like, I don't fucking know. She was calm, cool, collected, and even suggested that Albertina try a palm reading. You know, let's ask the spirits where Virginia went.
She's like selling her fucking services.
Exactly. So, Albertina declines. She's a God-fearing woman.
Yeah.
She's like, I don't want to deal with any of that spiritual shit.
Yeah.
So, she leaves the shop very deeply unsettled. She realizes from her encounter with Leonarda that, you know, she, in a sense, is a very deeply manipulative woman. Mm-hmm. And she could see how her sister-in-law could have been taken advantage by her. Mm-hmm. So, she goes to the police. In turn, Virginia's disappearance ended up opening a line of questioning concerning the other two missing women. And so the cops are like, why did all three of these ladies go missing in your shop, girly?
Yeah.
What is going on? So...
Also, this new soap smells so good.
Yeah, like, what did you do to it? So, Leonarda is eventually brought in for questioning. And, you know, the police don't really take Albertina's concerns very seriously. After all, Leonarda is still highly respected, and she has this warm, welcoming presence about her. She's older, so just think of, like, your typical Italian grandmother with her hair in curls and a warm tray of cookies in the oven. And, you know, of course, also she lied.
Yeah, I mean.
She, you know, was like, yeah, I know these women, but then again, I know everybody in town. Everybody comes to my shop. Like, I hope you find them. That's fucked up. And the police are like, oh, okay, whatever. Anyways.
I mean, yeah, you're not going to think that deeply about it. Mm-hmm. I kind of get that,
yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I kind of get it.
So they go back to square one. How could Leonarda have committed these crimes anyway? She's just a little old lady.
Yeah.
So their next best guess is Giuseppe. They think, you know, this young man, someone who had nothing to lose before being sent off to war, would be their best suspect. It would be child's play for Giuseppe to rob these women, kill them, and then skip town under the pretense of military service before disappearing and starting a new life elsewhere. So they fucking book Giuseppe.
Like, that sucks so bad for Giuseppe because he didn't do anything wrong.
Yep.
But the karmic justice
I know.
is too insane. That curse was real.
Oh, yeah.
I don't care what you say.
So fucking loot me.
Oh, my God.
So, they acquire a search warrant, and they go through Leonarda's shop. In doing so, they find the clothes and suitcases of the 3 missing women. And, you know, in my head, I'm like, why didn't she get rid of the evidence? But whatever.
Yeah. Different time.
Different time. So after they uncover all of this shit, they bring Giuseppe in for questioning, and they go at him for hours. They're like, why did you kill these women? What is your plan? What did you do with the bodies? Blah, 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 blah. And he has no fucking clue what is going on.
Yeah.
He doesn't know anything for obvious reasons. So they're pressuring him to give an answer, and the questioning goes on for hours until Leonarda shows up at the police station and confesses everything. Everything.
And he's like, wait, you gave me a bath with that soap last night.
Yeah. So they didn't believe her at first. They thought she was like,
Well,
you know.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, they thought she was doing the mom thing where she's like, no, it was me. Don't put my son away. So they like nearly laugh her out of the office. However, Leonarda goes into gory, explicit detail and describes the entire situation. In doing so, Giuseppe has that exact thought and realizes he had consumed human remains.
Oh my god!
He starts throwing up in the police station.
Oh my god!
And he's like projectile vomiting everywhere because he realizes what his mom did to him. And the cops don't get it still. They're like, there's no way. Your mom's just crazy. But despite everything, the only way she is able to fully convince the police officers that she did this, and this is fucked up, they take her down to the morgue, and she takes an axe and shows them how she breaks down a corpse, and did it in less than 15 minutes. And only after she did that, they were like, oh my fucking god, this woman killed them. She killed all 3 of those people.
Oh my god.
Yep.
Also, those people did not consent to having their corpses, you know,
desecrated.
defiled, yeah.
But, yeah. So.
Oh my god.
So after that, all hell breaks loose. Giuseppe completely flips and tells the police everything he knows about his mother. He tells them that she is heavily into the occult, that she's mentally ill, and that she absolutely had the capacity to do all of these horrible things. He even told them where they could find her stash of, like, dark magic paraphernalia and sold her out to the cops immediately.
Good.
Which, you know, I don't blame him for, but also that fucking sucks.
I know.
That is awful.
I know.
So,
oh, yeah. Oof.
Very heartbreaking.
Yeah.
I know, in a sense, he wanted to escape the oppressive helicopter parenting for good. And I know he was horrified by what she had done, but still, that is just so twisted.
Yeah.
So, regardless, Leonarda didn't care. She succeeded, you know? It didn't matter that her son hated her, her community turned on her husband lost his job, her kids ran away, changed their names because they didn't want to be associated with her. She had successfully completed the spells. Her son would be protected and would live at any cost.
Oh my god. If you tell me that he dies.
Leonarda Cianciulli was brought to trial for the murder of the 3 women in 1946. Raphael attempted to support Leonarda throughout all of this and stuck with Leonarda despite her actions. His family abandoned him, and he was unable to find work as the community had completely ousted all of them. Unfortunately, and in another awful twist of fate, it seemed that the only thing that would help him escape the demons in his mind and the pressures of being married to a serial killer was alcohol.
Ugh.
So he fully spirals into binge drinking.
God damn.
Mm-hmm. And before Leonarda was even able to take the stand, he succumbed to alcohol poisoning and passed away.
Damn.
Mm-hmm. So like her father before, her husband died of alcohol poisoning. So.
Oh my god.
Yep. So by this point, the trial began in earnest, and all of Leonarda's actions came to light. Her occult books, spell-making materials and the instruments she used to craft the soaps were all put on display before the court. So we've got, like, the pot, the knives, the axe, the ladles, all of the books with the spells and shit. Everything is there. And at the same time, she was also confessing to everything and being like, yeah, I did it, and this is how I did it, and this is why I did it, and you ate them, so...
Oh, my God.
Expert witnesses were called to, verify her claims, like chemists and mortuaries.
Yeah,
and
I was
shit
going to be like,
that.
who's an expert witness in this?
and they want to verify that she was able to do this because all of this sounds so fucking outlandish. Like, it's a horror movie. So, one of them even went on to say that Leonarda's account was total bullshit because she claimed to use caustic soda, which is more commonly known as sodium hydroxide, or lye. If you watch any crime shows, it's the shit they put on bodies to make them decompose. They argued for whatever reason that caustic soda wouldn't be strong enough to break down the body on its own, to which Leonarda replied, offended, bring a body to court. Bring a body of any age and I will prove it.
Oh my God. Why is she proud of her
No, she genuinely,
skill?
she is, because she, thought that she was doing witchy shit. She's like, yeah, I fucking did it and I'll show you how.
I like how she was like, take me to the morgue, give me an axe.
Yeah, literally.
And now she's like, bring the body.
Yep, she's fully in her I kill people fantasy.
Yeah.
So, yeah, she's off the deep end. All in all, it took the court 3 days to determine she was entirely guilty. And like I said, it wasn't a hard case to prove. Leonarda admitted to everything. Additionally, it became evident throughout the course of the trial that her mental state was deteriorating at a rapid rate. Her emotions would fluctuate rapidly. The nature of her crimes seemed heinous enough that the jury concluded not only was she guilty, she was also criminally insane. At the conclusion of the trial, it was determined that Leonarda Cianciulli would be sentenced to 30 years in prison and 3 years in a criminal asylum. Her mother's curse had once again reared its ugly head, and the prophecy foretold by the Romani fortune teller had come true. Prison in one hand, the asylum in the other. Like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me?
Oh my God.
Right?
I can't believe this is real.
I know.
This is crazy.
I know. It's so... Oh my God, it's so good. Well, not good, but you know what I mean.
No, like juicy.
Very juicy. So...
Soapy.
Sudsy. Foamy. But, regardless, Leonarda was sent to Pozzuole prison, wherein her fame allowed her a certain sort of lifestyle amongst the other female inmates. She set up shop in the prison kitchen, cooking delicious meals for all the other prisoners, not containing human remains.
Yeah, but maybe, like, bad taste. Like...
Well, regardless, she was a really good cook, so they're like, yeah, fuck it, you can make fucking tortellinis. Yeah. I don't know. Enjoy.
That was racist.
Shut up. So, yeah, she cooked the meals for the other prisoners, and in turn, they would go to her for advice, palm readings, and, recollections of her life and crimes. Because she lived a crazy life. They were entertained by her. She even went on to write an autobiography, which is titled The Confessions of an Embittered Soul, and is approximately 700 pages long.
That's the name of my memoir, too.
Yeah, I would read that.
Yeah.
But,
700 pages long.
Yeah.
Whoa.
I think they have a copy of it in, there's a database online called the World Library or something similar, but you have to pay for it to read it, so I did get the chance to check it out. Not paying for it.
No.
But this tome basically includes unconfirmed tales of rampant sexcapades, the mostly true story of her life, and a collection of recipes, which, funnily enough, to this day, is one of the best preserved cookbooks for 19th century Italian cuisine and baking techniques.
That's interesting.
Yeah, right?
That's actually really interesting.
Even some chefs today still reference portions of it because it's that good, which is like, okay, Leonarda.
Wow, yeah.
Goddamn.
That's fascinating.
So, she would go on to remain in prison for another 20 years until, unfortunately, she had a stroke and a brain bleed. Her seizures returned, and by the time she was transferred to the asylum at the end of her sentence, she had lost her sight and most of her capabilities as an independent person. Leonarda Cianciulli died of cerebral epilepsy in apoplexy, which is a brain bleed, in the Paluzi Women's Criminal Asylum on the 15th of October, 1970, 1 year before she was scheduled to be released. She was 76. When doctors did her autopsy, they discovered that the most likely cause of the brain bleed was years and years of caustic soda inhalation from her soap making.
Whoa.
A chemical strong enough to dissolve the tallow for her beloved revenue stream had eaten away at the soft tissues of her arteries and had eventually killed her. There isn't much to be said about Leonarda's children. As I already mentioned, they fled the country and changed their names. Raphael passed away many years earlier, so when she died, there was no one left to claim her body. And that is the end of Leonarda Cianciulli, the soap maker of Coreggio, the Italian Sweeney Todd, mother, artisan, occultist, and cannibal. Her story is simply so unbelievable that it seems the stuff of fiction, and probably would have been entirely written off if it hadn't been for the evidence collected during the trial, most of which is still on display at the Roman Criminology Museum. There's even a movie created about her, self-titled Leonarda, written and acted in by Leonarda's great-great-niece.
Oh.
That's one hell of a legacy to leave behind. One may argue that Leonarda was cursed from the moment Mariano Cianciulli laid eyes upon her mother, the byproduct of an intergenerational class war, born of violence and destined to live a life of misery. It's not too far of a stretch in the imagination to see that once she had acquired the warmth and stability she so desperately craved, that she would do anything and everything to protect the people she cared about most. And that's that.
Lauren, that was insane.
You like it?
No. Honestly, no. I didn't like 1 second of it, but oh my god.
There you go. That's the soap maker of Coreggio, Leonarda Cianciulli.
I was just waiting and waiting and waiting for you to say, and then Giuseppe died. Like, I was just waiting for that to happen.
I mean, there's like, I tried doing some research, like looking up his name, like if there were any records for him, like being like a prisoner of war, or like if he had like moved or anything, but there really isn't any information as to what happened to him.
Which good.
Yeah, but I would assume, unfortunately, that when he was sent off to war, maybe he changed his name, or maybe he was sent off to battle and died and his body was never recovered. Yeah. We don't really know, but I don't think it's hard to imagine that, unfortunately, he also died before she did.
Or maybe she broke the curse.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe he escaped and he has a happy little family somewhere, and many, many happy little grandchildren that don't know that their great-great-great-great-grandmother is the soap maker of Coreggio. But I don't know.
Or he escaped and went on to have a family and continued the same insane, like, parenting styles.
I really hope not.
And was super detached from his kids because she wasn't from him.
Yep.
Wow, that was great, Lauren.
Much to consider.
Well, thanks.
You're welcome.
I need to go wash my hands after that one.
Oh, boo.
Get it? Because, you know.
Yeah. You know what? I'll eat a tea cake. I'll think of you.
It is. Lauren made me watch. Well, I shouldn't say made me watch. Lauren introduced me to Sweeney Todd when she was temporarily living with me. Mm-hmm. I loved it. Mm-hmm. And this is very, very, very Sweeney Todd.
Very reminiscent of all of that.
Yeah.
Which is just simply so crazy.
Yeah.
What a woman.
What a woman. You want to tell us about your first date?
Well, I know we said that I was going to refrain from discussing my dating life on the podcast. However, this is a weird one. And I haven't been on Tinder in a minute. And I got back on recently because you
don't need to justify it.
You know, I like attention.
Yeah.
And so I was talking to this guy for a couple days over text. We're getting a little flirty. He's being very cute. The vibes are excellent.
He was really cute.
He was really cute. So I was very excited to go on a little coffee date yesterday. We meet up at this little cafe that's like 10 minutes away from my place, blah, blah, blah. And throughout the course of the date, I remember why I've kind of retired from Tinder. There were 2 things in particular during the date that made me very deeply uncomfortable.
Well, it's free.
Well, number 1 was he would occasionally coo like a pigeon. Like, fully go... Like, I wish I was kidding. The second was, occasionally, in the course of us speaking, or just, like, randomly, when there was a lull in conversation, he kept saying, whatchamacallit, over and over again.
Like...
Yeah, over and over again. And, like, not when it was warranted, not when it made sense, whatchamacallit. And that sussed me out very intensely.
And then also the power thing.
Oh my god. The third was this philosophy that he claimed he got from Nietzsche, where he told me that he believed he needed to make himself into a physical threat, but not use his physical prowess on anyone as a show of morality to prove that he was a good person. And I was very, very uncomfortable throughout that entire thing, which is like, this is so much to unpack for a first date.
Yeah.
Where he was also very insistent on getting me to go back to his place. And I was like, absolutely fucking not.
And that's what strikes me so hard, is he's like, yeah, I want to be, like, powerful so that I can hurt people, but then, like, don't hurt people so I'm a good person. And then he's like, you want to come back to Twin Rivers Commons?
You want to come back to my place?
Yeah.
It's like, no, that
I'm good.
Scared the shit out of me, actually. But even worse, well, I shouldn't say even worse. After that, I kind of came to the conclusion that there wasn't going to be a second date because that entire situation made me so uncomfortable. So I was like, you know what? We're just going to let this kind of peter out. Not going to make it into a thing. Very weird. Excellent story, but not notable.
Yeah.
Until I went out with Casey last night, and we were walking to Beer Tree, one of the local bars downtown, and he's walking alone in the opposite direction, coming towards us. And I literally said aloud, oh fuck. Because I was like, oh my god, why? Why is this happening to me? So, you know, I'm doing my cute little thing. I'm wearing the same outfit I had on from the date. And he looks directly at me. So I'm thinking in my stupid little brain that he remembered me.
No, in your rational... It literally was like 6 hours later.
And we had like talked for like almost 2 hours. So
you were wearing the same thing.
So stupidly, I waved because I thought that he was looking right at me, and I was like, hey, you know, trying to just be polite because that's what you fucking do.
Yeah.
He didn't acknowledge me at all until we were like 4 steps past him, and he goes, wait. And then Casey.
I'm so sorry. I don't know why my brain did this, but there was just like so much tension in the air, and I could tell he like didn't recognize you. And then when he went, wait, I went, that's Lauren.
We just kept walking.
I don't know why I said that. I just for some reason was like, that's Lauren.
I mean, like I said, I'm very thankful that this wasn't a situation where I was, like, excited about the prospect of a second date and that happened. Because if it had, I would be devastated.
Yeah, that'd be awkward.
But it just put the awkward cherry on the awkward peanut butter fudge sundae. It was a fucking nightmare.
I'm so sorry that happened.
You know what? Maybe I just need to quit while I'm ahead. Just get more rats. I'll become a spinster.
Oh yeah, she got 2 rats yesterday.
I did. Their
2
names
more
are Maxwell and Ramsey, and Casey and I are gonna hang with them later.
Yeah, I met them last night. They're so sweet.
They're so small.
They're so small.
And so soft. They're just little babies.
I know,
so,
I love them.
We're gonna hang out with them, and I'm gonna lick my wounds. Recover, hopefully, from all of that. But
lick your wounds after you wash your hands of the rat.
Oh.
Okay, no. Please no.
Anyways, as we mentioned last episode, for the season finale of Magnum B.I, Casey and I are going to do a 2-parter for the last 2 episodes.
Yep.
And we've decided on our case, which is ongoing.
Yes.
And is going to be a lot of fun to get into. There's a whole bunch of fun little things we're going to discuss.
Yes, and we feel as though it's very important and it's very timely, and we want to not bring people to justice, but we want to, like,
bring more attention
to it, show a perspective that isn't being talked about enough.
And just get into it.
Yeah.
So, for the next 2 episodes, Casey and I are going to be discussing the Murdoch murders. So, for the season finale, make sure you tune in, give us a listen, rate the podcast on Spotify, like, share, subscribe on YouTube.
Follow TikTok and Instagram. Email us, Magnum B.I pod@gmail.com.
Send us your weirdest first date stories.
Yeah.
We're still going to do that listener write-in episode. It could be like a little mini-sode.
Yeah, that'd be so fun.
Yeah, so give us something good to talk about, and you might get featured.
Yeah,
so.
you might get featured.
Mom?
Also, quickly, my mom started listening because I taught her how to use Apple Podcasts.
Aw,
and
yay.
she started listening, and she was like, you guys do a really good job. Like, I love listening to your stories. You swear too much.
Oh, I'm sorry, Shelly.
Sorry, Mom. Fuck, Mom. I'm sorry. Love you.
Love you.
Thanks for listening, everybody.
Yeah, thank you. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. I think this might be our longest one to date.
But it was really juicy.
Thank you. I'm glad you liked it. And I hope you guys like our 2-parter that's coming out soon. So stay tuned for that.
I'll be doing part 1 next week.
And then after that, I'm going to be finishing up the first season with the finale
Oh,
on
that's
episode
crazy.
20.
That's crazy.
I can't believe it's finally happening. I'm so excited.
Me and my bestie just doing 20 episodes.
We did so good.
We did so well. All right. See you guys next week.
Magnum.
B.I.
Bye.